Welcome to Washoe Life, podcast about, well, you guessed it, life here in Washoe County. We got really innovative with that title, didn't we?
But it works. It just fits.
I'm Nancy Lewinhagen, Communications Director here at Washoe County.
And I'm Bethany Drysdale, Communications Manager.
Well, today we have a fantastic guest who really, boy, she's just been sitting around lately. But we're going to talk about some influential women in our lives. March is
Women's History
Month. But we're not just going to talk about history. We're going to talk about all the stuff. And very, very, very glad to have you, Emily Jaenson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I love this.
Oh, it's fun.
And we're coming up on International Women's Day, which is I didn't realize it truly internationally. I've been in other countries on that day, and they make a big deal about it. It is just so fabulous. And so I love that we get to shine the light on some influential women here.
Very influential, and we thank you for coming. Emily, by the way, has her own podcast, so it's fun to interview someone else who interviews others.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the podcast Leadership is Female. We started about the same time, 4 years ago. And it has been so fun interviewing women around the world about leadership. And it started as a focus for women working in sports and has since expanded to female leaders. And we've climbed the charts. We're in the top 2.5% of podcasts worldwide, top 200 in business. And what that tells you is people want to hear about successful women, and all of the guests on the show, they share the lessons that they've learned for the purpose of leading her forward. So how amazing is that we're out here serving others, trying to lift others up rather than the old adage of pulling up the ladder behind us.
Oh, yes. We'll continue our conversation on, I was telling Bethany I just got done with the book, Barbara Walters' book, and it was called Rule Breaker. I don't know if you talk about. And we've read all kinds of different books. This book resonated with me, just the stuff she went through. But then when you realize what she did, talking about a ladder, she started The View at age 67. So see, we got that.
That was too late. My goodness, I don't know. Retirement sounds fabulous at 67 as well. But hey, it's more power to her.
Yeah, Martha Stewart. I was just watching her documentary on Netflix. You guys have to watch that. Oh my gosh. She started her catering company in her 40s.
Okay.
So that was when before then she was building her home and gardening and renovating out in Connecticut, and then was doing such a great job with such a phenomenal interest in cooking. She started a catering company. It absolutely exploded, and that became Martha Stewart Living.
That's so
wild.
Okay.
Yes, never too late.
Never too late.
No.
Well, let's go back to how did you get to, because we'd love to talk about people who are living right here in Northern Nevada. How'd you get here?
Yeah, so I am born and raised in rural Illinois.
Where?
Yeah, Lake Villa on the border of Wisconsin.
Okay, I'm from Central Illinois.
Okay,
so my
accent is gonna really shine in this interview. Then here we go. I can't get rid of it. I've been here in Reno a long time, but it will not go away. So grew up in Northern Illinois, went to University of Illinois, and then lived in Chicago for several years. And I think that, for people who move to Reno, if you're not born here, I think there's one of two reasons. It's a job or a relationship. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time it was a relationship. So my husband was in the military, and he called me from deployment and said, "Hey, what do you think of Fallon, Nevada?"
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, I have no idea where that is. So the only place I had been to in Nevada was Las Vegas. And I went to Vegas on the map, started to zoom out, couldn't find Fallon anywhere, and realized that beautiful Northern Nevada existed. And anyway, we took the plunge. We moved to Fernley in 2012 and split the distance between Reno and Fallon. And I was lucky enough to get an opportunity with the Reno Aces and excel in that role. And when my husband left the military, took his first corporate job in Houston, Texas. So we picked up our little family. My first son was born here in Reno at St. Mary's. And we moved to Houston for 2 years when Eric Edelstein, president of the Aces, called me up and said, "Hey, we need a general manager, and I want it to be you. What is it going to take you to move back to Reno? And I said, you know what's so funny is last night my husband and I were walking out of Target in Houston, and the clouds had settled in such a way with the sunset coming behind that it looked like the mountains. And we both looked at each other and were like, man, we miss the mountains so much. We miss Reno. And then the opportunity came to come back, and we jumped at that. And that was back in 2018. And I had one more child in Houston, and then my daughter was born here in St. Mary's in Reno. So collectively, we've been here almost 11 years. We actually got married at the courthouse right across the street from where we're recording the podcast.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel this is home.
Yeah.
This is home to me.
How did you get into sports? I mean, that general manager is not a small thing.
That's a
And
big
that-
job.
It seems like there's a story there as well.
Yeah, well, I was an athlete growing up like a lot of kids, and I went to college thinking that I wanted to work in sports, had no clue how to do it, and the only visibility I had was when I would watch the games on the weekend. I would see the training staff run out on the field, and I was like, that seems like something I could do. So I went to school for physical therapy, and it wasn't long into chemistry that my business and very English brain was like, this is not the path. And ended up finding advertising as my major, but still wanted to work in sports, and realized that there is a whole front office running the business of that team, and I could be a part of that. And so my first job was with the Chicago Bulls in Chicago. So that got me started in the sports industry. And I worked in sports. I worked also in nonprofit, which I think really helped me to understand and connect deeply with communities and their needs, which really helped me in my role as general manager with the Aces when I was there from 2018 to 2022, because that's what the team is, right? It's our Reno Aces. And in order to maintain the hour, we need to connect. And I think I was really good at that. So yeah, that's a little bit of the story.
What's it like? What was it like, or to be? You were the first female
in 20 years. So thank goodness there were women before me, because this was 2018. But there hadn't been for a very long time at the AAA level, which is the highest level of affiliated baseball. There had not been a woman in that role in almost 20 years. And when I took the role, I realized like, wow, I can't believe my name is like next to that statistic. But what I need to do is great work. So that was my initial focus. And then later that first season, after that first season, I was at baseball winter meetings in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I was asked to speak on a panel for women in baseball. And I talked about my career. I talked about, my role, and it was a room of over 300 women, which was amazing that there were all these women working in the industry. And when I left the stage, everybody kind of greets the people who were speaking and says hello, maybe exchange business cards. But one woman after another said, I didn't know that I could have that job until I saw you.
Wow.
And that's where I really understood the quote from Marian Wright Edelman, you can't be what you can't see. And I realized that I would still continue to, work really hard at my job, but I would also do it in a way where I was thinking about the next generation. So that's how the podcast was started. I had an opportunity to speak a lot at women in sports events, and, still carry that torch today, even though I'm not in the role any longer. I am still thinking about how can women support women to be their best version of themselves and go after all of their goals.
Wow, that is incredible. I'll tell you, I was telling Nancy earlier, one of my really dear friends from college, we were in journalism together, and she went into sports journalism, and the way she had to fight to just be respected, for one, being a female reporter in sports, and be louder than the other reporters asking questions, and be upfront and just really work for it. And that was in reporting.
Mhm.
I imagine sports would be a hard place to do that. Am I inferring too much?
No, you are right. I mean, there's certainly a lot rattling around my brain when you talk about those instances. I was really cognizant that I needed to build great relationships. I was, fortunate that, Eric was a great ally of mine. He was the one who hired me and brought me in. And between the two of us, he didn't really see like male, female. And sometimes when things would happen or be said or I'd be looked at a certain way, he would be flabbergasted. Like, I can't believe that somebody said that or that person looked at you the way that they did. And I was like, I got to a point in my career where I could focus on the work and focus on the relationships and let a lot of that sort of roll by me because I wasn't going to let somebody else's opinions of what they thought I could do hamstring me from the work that I knew I could do.
So building this confidence, and I know you do a TED Talk about six tips for building your confidence, and we don't. But how do you? I don't expect you to give it all, but clearly you've learned to build your confidence.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's been so many game changers in my career, but the biggest one has been working on myself. And in order to reach the gigantic goals I had for myself in my life, I needed to become that person. And my TED Talk starts out by saying I was too shy to order a pizza, right? And
You were too shy to
I
order a
was,
pizza?
yes, I know, nobody does. And, I didn't know how well that line would land. It was just true, right? It was my story. When I was younger, I was painfully shy. I'd hide behind my mom's leg. I'd get like, if I was at a party and I didn't know anybody, I didn't want to be there any longer, right? I wasn't great at networking. Remember, I was a small town girl with big dreams, no clue how to get there. And I wasn't one of those people who would go out and just say like, okay, well, if I don't have it, then I need to meet some people who do. I felt probably a little bit defeated, went more back into my comfort zone, playing sports, stayed, in my quiet town until I applied to college. And when I got to U of I, my freshman class was larger than the population of my hometown.
It's huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I grew up 45 minutes away I went to Southern, by the way.
Okay. All right. Carbondale.
I know. Shambana. But not as big of a school. But yeah, still.
Overwhelming.
Very
And I
overwhelming.
watched some of the friends I had made thriving. I mean, they were so excited to be out of their parents' homes and partying and learning and making their own decisions and eating whatever they wanted and, their own schedule. They loved it. And I was literally crying in my dorm room. I mean, it was so difficult. And I thought about, all right, maybe I can just go home and I'll go to College of Lake County, the community college in town. Nothing wrong with that, but it did not match my ambition. It didn't match my dream. I had gotten to school for a reason. And it was then that I realized I needed to change. I saw the confident behaviors of those around me, and I started to realize that in order to reach my goals, I needed to become a more confident person too. And, research will show you that in order to change that mindset, you need to start practicing the behaviors. And it's literally one small step at a time. And so I talk now to corporations. I mean, we're full-blown adults here, right? At any point in our career, but so many people lack confidence. And many people are unaware that they lack it because they just sit in their comfort zone where they're comfortable, right? And they don't go after those next big goals because what they are doing now is easy, right? It's simple. But if there's an idea burning in the back of your brain, like, hey, it keeps showing up. Maybe you should try this. Maybe you should pitch this idea. Maybe you should sign up for this new thing. Maybe you should apply for that job. And it keeps coming up, right? That's a signal to try something new. And it can be uncomfortable. We can lack confidence in these new arenas. But just getting out there, leaving that comfort zone, surviving, right? I teach a lot. It's so simple. And here's one for everybody today. 3, 2, 1, go. Remember that I'm an athlete. Right? And so how do you get started in any game ever? It's a countdown for the clock to get going. And when the clock gets to 0, you take action. And so you can use that in your daily life. 3, 2, 1, go, and hit the button to make the phone call. 3, 2, 1, go, hit submit on the application. 3, 2, 1, go. Have that really difficult conversation with the person that you're managing, right? If you start and survive, your confidence will grow to engage in that behavior again.
Something that, lean in was, a really big thing, like 10 years ago or something. And people have really strong feelings either for or against it often. But something that resonated with me is women, I feel like we're taught to, if you don't fully match the job description, well, I'm not going to apply. I don't qualify. And we're not conditioned, I guess. I don't know, lack of a better word. We're not taught that it's okay to just go for it. Maybe you don't meet all the criteria, but you might meet something that that person is really looking for. And so what you just said really resonated with me, and kind of that same line, just do it. I mean, we just hold ourselves back thinking, well, maybe not today. Well, maybe somebody else will do it better. And just, I love that. 3, 2, 1, go.
True. The limiting beliefs are nasty, right? Our brain is not always so nice to us. It likes to remind us of the things we can't do so it can keep us safe. But I have survived 100% of the hard things that I've endeavored to do. And you can too.
We're bringing a lot of purple to the community here over the next couple of weeks. International Women's Day, the Nevada Women's Fund, which you've done a lot of work with them as well.
Yeah, so Isla is incredible. Oh my gosh, what a bright light in this community. We just need to shout out to her running Nevada
Yes.
Women's Fund and the impact that they make. I got to see firsthand. I was the keynote speaker at their scholarship awards ceremony this last fall. And I got to do a book signing after the presentation, and to get to meet so many of the recipients of these awards was incredible. These women are going after it. I had this idea that it would be kids starting college, but it was not. It was a mixture of kids starting college, mothers, people going back for advanced degrees, and the ideas and the degrees and the careers that they were pursuing blew me away. And the fact that the Nevada Women's Fund helps them achieve those goals through their sponsor dollars to pay for college for these women is just, oh my gosh, it's phenomenal.
Ripple effect.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Nevada Women's Fund. It's amazing.
So what other organizations are you involved in here?
Yeah, so I'm on the board at the Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation. This year I'm vice chair. And that has been some of the most rewarding work I've had the chance to do. Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation they help families whose children have a cancer diagnosis. And it makes me emotional just talking about it because it's the hardest time for anyone to get that news. And if they do, NNCCF is there. And they are there in so many ways, from helping them to get to and from the hospital visits if they have to leave the area. We're taking care of those hotel and travel expenses, helping pay some of those medical bills. Not only do you have to deal with your child being sick, but then you have to pay for it. And NNCCF alleviates that burden. So that organization, if you haven't heard of it, I encourage you to look it up and get involved. This month is the No for the Gold Radiothon, and then in March is Shave for the Brave. So that's an amazing fundraiser where volunteers raise a bunch of money and shave their heads on stage in solidarity with children going through cancer.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then also you are keynote speaker for Let's Go Up in Age for some students up at the University of Nevada.
Yes. Yeah. The International Women's Symposium on March 14th from 9 to noon. I get to be the keynote speaker this year. And when I was talking to Armina about the programming, she said, we've had successful events in the past, but what our audience has been asking for is something that feels more tactical. And she said, I've heard that you can do that. Can you tell me about what you can do? And I was like, all right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we can serve this audience. They've got 220 tickets available for students and for the community. Everyone's going to get a copy of my book, Let's Go, A Guide to Increasing Your Confidence. And what I'm going to do on stage is I'm going to tell you how to increase your confidence. We're going to do a confident goal setting exercise. So all that goal setting you're thinking about, we're going to move it from to do to done. And then finally, we're going to talk about intention. So I think this is where women get really hung up, is when you have big goals for your life, we are busy, we're ambitious, we add so much to our plates, and then we get overwhelmed because we don't have the time to meet our ambitions. And so if we can think about intention and applying intention to our lives, I teach a bunch of ways in which you can do that, then you can truly show up fully where you are. You can schedule your time appropriately. You can make time for the things you thought you didn't have time for, and you can reach your goals in life. So we're going to do that in a morning.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're tapping back into that 18-year-old at University of Illinois who was not going to order a pizza.
Yeah, every time I take the stage at a conference or if I'm speaking to a corporation, speaking of International Women's Day, last year I had the opportunity to speak for women at Intel. And I know you were talking about how it's such an international day. 25,000 women around the world.
Wow.
It was amazing. And it was also, it changed the way I thought about things because we're not all the same, right? And the things that we value in different areas of the country are vast and varied. But a lot of these principles, a lot of the psychology is still the same. And the research will show that. Any good research will not just be part of one culture, right? It'll include many so that we can come to very conclusive results. And so, it's really incredible that we're sort of dealing with a lot of the same things all around the world. But I believe that bringing people together, sort of teaching under one roof, having that collective experience can truly be life-changing.
You said you have one daughter?
One daughter, yeah.
What do you see for her as she grows up? And she's obviously learning from you and then this world that you're creating for her as well.
Yeah. Gosh, I see endless opportunity. She's 3.5 years old, and I've recently learned the term three-nager.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. So I didn't have that with my boys, my sweet boys, but my daughter, man, she's a firecracker. And everyone laughs at me when I say that because they are like, what were you expecting? She's your daughter. But the world is her oyster, and she inspires me to continue to push for more in my own life for the purpose of setting an example for her. I never want to rest on my laurels. I think it's what motivates me to just keep going and keep setting new goals, keep pursuing more, all with the intention, right? That base value is of making a difference, is of helping people, whether it's through volunteering on boards, whether it's through podcasts and sharing knowledge, whether it's through speaking or my consulting services where I'm like helping people solve challenging problems in their business. That's my MO, right? And I want to show her that she can do anything she wants. I mean, truly. And I believe that with my whole heart. And I want to show her through my example how she can get there.
I'm curious how Emily resets. What do you do for self-care and getting through the stress of your life?
Yeah. So running. And some people roll their eyes like, oh my gosh, you're a runner. But it is my meditation. It's my church. Like on Friday mornings, I do a long run and, I work out throughout the week, but that's like my hit the pavement moment. And oh man, it is a gift to be able to do that. And I do not take it for granted. I'm so grateful to be healthy and to have the opportunity to move my body like that. And that's also part of my ethos is never stop moving, right? If I keep moving forward, I can move through anything. And running is a really great metaphor for goal setting as well. So that's been my big recharge moment. And then also, I do love Netflix, right? I mentioned the documentary at the beginning. So, anytime I can watch a movie or a show, I like to do it alone I don't like a lot of company, like watching TV. So I'll put on my headphones. Anytime I travel for work, I give myself a break on the plane and I watch a series. And, it doesn't have to be pedal to the metal 100% of the time. People love to say life is short, and I say life is long. If you fill your days, your weeks, your years with intention, with going after the things that you want to pursue, there's a lot of time in there to get a lot done. So take advantage of it.
That is incredibly inspiring, and I'm feeling very convicted right now. So I've got some cleanup to do in my life, I think.
We all do, don't we?
Yes.
That is great. And before we let you go, are you hopeful for women in leadership at this point?
Yes, I am. I have the great fortune of interviewing amazing leaders on my podcast, and it's why I'm inspired to keep doing it week after week is because these women inspire me. I get to be on the receiving end of their stories, and their stories of resilience, their stories of triumph, their stories of building themselves up into the lives that they wanted. And, I'm studying positive psychology at Arizona State University for my master's right now for a reason, right? Like I want to look at the world through the positive attributes rather than the negative. And I believe that, if we keep focusing on the best, we can make the best even better.
I like it.
Absolutely. I can't top that.
I
Thank you so much for this experience. It is. I'm sure our listeners and watchers or viewers are just going to take away so much inspiration from this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing.
We appreciate you. And let's go. What do you say? Let's
3,
get
2,
her
1,
done.
go.
3, 2, 1, go. Thank you for joining us. And if you have any ideas, give us an email.
You can email washoe311@washoecounty.gov and just say, hey, I got an idea for a podcast, and we'd love to hear it.
Until next time, have a great day.